The bells above the door chimed softly as Hyunwoo swept the last bits of hair from the floor. It was late in the evening, and Station Kepler 442 was quieting down for the night cycle. The shops along the main corridor were closing one by one, their lights dimming like stars fading at dawn. Hyunwoo liked this time of day. It was peaceful. The constant noise of hundreds of different species speaking in dozens of languages finally settled into a gentle hum. His barber shop was small. Just one chair, a mirror, and walls covered with old photos from Earth. Pictures of his grandmother, his hometown, the ocean, things he missed but couldn't return to. Not yet, maybe not ever. Space travel was expensive, and his little shop barely made enough to keep him fed and pay the station rent. He was putting away his scissors when he heard footsteps outside. Heavy boots on metal floor. Hyunwoo looked at the door, hoping whoever it was would see the closed sign and move along. He was tired. His back ached from standing all day, and he wanted nothing more than to eat some instant noodles and sleep. The door opened anyway. A figure stepped inside, wearing a long gray cloak with a hood that covered most of their face. They were tall, taller than Hyunwoo, and moved with careful steps. In their arms they carried something wrapped in cloth. Whatever it was moving, squirming, making small, distressed sounds that reminded Hyunwoo of a kitten in pain. "I'm closed," Hyunwoo said in common tongue, the language most species used for trade. His accent was thick but understandable. "Come back tomorrow morning." The figure pushed back her hood. She was humanoid, with pale skin and dark eyes that seemed to look right through him. Her hair was black and pulled back tight. She was beautiful in a cold, distant way, like a statue carved from ice. "I need your help," she said. Her voice was calm but urgent. "Now," Hyunwoo hesitated. Station rules said he should call security if someone forced their way into his shop after hours. But something about her made him pause. She didn't look dangerous. She looked desperate. "What do you need?" he asked. She moved closer and carefully unwrapped the cloth in her arms. Hyunwoo's eyes went wide. It was a creature unlike anything he'd seen in his 3 years on the station. It was about the size of a house cat, with scales that shimmered like oil on water, blues and purples and greens all mixed together. It had 4 legs, small wings folded against its back, and a long tail that whipped back and forth. Its head was reptilian with large golden eyes and tiny horns sprouting from its skull. The creature looked at Hyunwoo and hissed, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "What is that?" Hyunwoo whispered. "A pet," the woman said quickly. "Too quickly. He needs grooming. The scales around his eyes have grown too long. He cannot see well, but he is difficult. He becomes violent when strangers touch him." Hyunwoo took a step back. "I cut hair, human hair. Sometimes I trim fur for the Felidae species, but that thing looks like it could bite my hand off." "He won't," the woman said. She looked down at the creature with something like affection. "He is just scared. All he needs is someone patient, someone calm." "I was told you are both." Hyunwoo wondered who had told her that. He didn't have many customers who would recommend him. Most days he was lucky to get 2 or 3 clients. The other barbers on the station were faster, cheaper, or both. But Hyunwoo had one quality they didn't. He was gentle. He took his time. He made people feel safe in his chair. Maybe that's what she heard about. "I'll pay triple," the woman added, "in galactic credits. Real ones, not station tokens." Hyunwoo thought about his rent, which was due in 5 days. He thought about the protein packs in his tiny apartment that were all the same flavor, because the good ones cost too much. He thought about the message from his mother back on Earth, asking when he'd send money to help with his sister's medicine. He sighed. "Put him in the chair." The woman's shoulders relaxed slightly. She walked to the barber chair and carefully set the creature down. It immediately tried to jump off, but she held it firmly. Not roughly, but with strength that surprised Hyunwoo. The creature shrieked, a high-pitched sound that hurt his ears. "What's his name?" Hyunwoo asked, approaching slowly with his scissors. "Spark," the woman said. Hyunwoo reached out and Spark's head whipped around, snapping at his fingers. Hyunwoo pulled back just in time. Those teeth were definitely sharp enough to do damage. "Spark," he said softly. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Spark didn't believe him. The creature thrashed harder, its tail hitting the mirror and making it shake. Small puffs of smoke came from its nostrils. Hyunwoo froze. "Does he breathe fire?" he asked. "Sometimes," the woman admitted. "When very upset." "You could have mentioned that earlier." Hyunwoo backed away, thinking. He couldn't cut Spark's scales while the creature was this panicked. He'd either hurt Spark or himself, probably both. He needed to calm the creature down first, but how? His eyes fell on the old acoustic guitar hanging on the wall. It was his grandmother's guitar, the only valuable thing he owned. She'd given it to him before he left Earth, made him promise to play it every day so he wouldn't forget home. He kept that promise most days, playing simple songs when the shop was empty. Without really thinking about why, Hyunwoo took the guitar down and sat on his stool. He started playing a soft melody, one his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. It was an old Korean folk song about the moon and the sea. The effect was immediate. Spark stopped thrashing. The creature's golden eyes locked onto Hyunwoo's fingers as they moved across the strings. The tension in Spark's small body eased. After a moment, Spark sat down in the chair, head tilted, listening. The woman stared at Hyunwoo with an expression he couldn't read. "Keep playing," she whispered. Hyunwoo kept playing. With one hand on the guitar, he slowly reached for his scissors with the other. Spark watched but didn't move, didn't hiss. Just listened to the music with what looked like fascination. Hyunwoo began to trim the scales carefully. They were harder than hair, but not as hard as he expected. With careful pressure, the scissors cut through them cleanly. The overgrown scales around Spark's eyes fell away and the creature blinked, seeing clearly for perhaps the first time in weeks. Spark made a soft sound, almost like a purr. It took 20 minutes, but Hyunwoo finished the job. He never stopped playing, moving through 3 different songs. When he finally set the guitar down, Spark looked like a different creature. Cleaner, calmer, almost happy. The woman picked up Spark gently and wrapped him back in the cloth. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a credit chip, pressing it into Hyunwoo's hand. "Thank you," she said. There was real gratitude in her voice. "What is he really?" Hyunwoo asked. "That's no pet." The woman looked at him for a long moment. "Some things are better not known," she said finally. "But I will return. Spark will need more care. I will pay the same rate." Before Hyunwoo could respond, she was gone, disappearing into the station corridor like a ghost. Hyunwoo looked down at the credit chip in his hand. She hadn't paid triple. She'd paid 10 times his normal rate, enough to cover 2 months of rent. He looked at the guitar, then at the door, wondering what he'd just gotten himself into. On the woman's sleeve, just before she'd pulled her cloak closed, Hyunwoo had seen something. A flash of silver, a symbol he didn't recognize. It looked important, official, like a military badge or government seal, but he was too tired to think about it more. He locked up the shop and went home, unaware that his life had just changed forever. The woman came back 3 days later. Hyunwoo was cutting the hair of a Felidae trader when the door opened. He recognized her immediately, even though she wore different clothes this time. A simple gray tunic and pants, nothing fancy, but she moved the same way with that careful grace that suggested danger underneath calm. Spark was with her, wrapped in the same cloth. The creature peeked out, and when those golden eyes found Hyunwoo, Spark made a happy chirping sound. The Felidae in the chair turned around, their cat-like ears flattening against their head. "Is that what I think it is?" they whispered. "Just a pet," the woman said smoothly. "Nothing to concern yourself with." The Felidae finished their haircut quickly and left, throwing nervous glances back at Spark. Hyunwoo had seen that look before. Fear. The kind of fear that came from recognizing something dangerous. When they were alone, the woman approached. "I need another grooming session." His claws this time. "They're growing too fast. What's your name?" Hyunwoo asked. He'd been wondering since their first meeting. It seemed rude to keep thinking of her as just the woman. She hesitated. "Nari," she said finally. Hyunwoo nodded. It was a Korean name like his. That was interesting. There weren't many Koreans out in the deep space stations. Most humans who came this far were from the colony worlds or the big Earth cities. "I'm Hyunwoo," he said, though she probably already knew that. "I know," Nari said, confirming his guess. She set Spark on the chair, and the creature immediately looked around for the guitar. Hyunwoo smiled. He took down the guitar and started playing. This time he chose a different song, something more upbeat with a dancing rhythm. Spark's tail swayed in time with the music. As he played, Hyunwoo examined Spark more carefully. The creature had grown. Not much, but noticeably. The scales were brighter, the wings a bit larger. Spark watched him with intelligence that made Hyunwoo uncomfortable. Those eyes understood too much. How old is Spark? He asked while trimming the razor-sharp claws. Young, Nari said. She stood by the window watching the station corridor like she expected trouble. Very young. Young for what species? Nari didn't answer. Over the next few weeks, the visits became regular. Every 3 or 4 days, Nari would come with Spark. Sometimes for grooming, sometimes just for a visit. Spark seemed to need the music, the calm presence of Hyunwoo and his guitar. The creature would curl up in the barber chair and listen, occasionally making soft humming sounds that vibrated through the whole shop. Hyunwoo found himself looking forward to these visits. Not just for the money, though, that helped. He genuinely liked Spark. The creature was playful when calm, curious about everything. Once Spark had grabbed the spray bottle Hyunwoo used for water and tried to drink from it, getting water everywhere. They'd both laughed, even Nari, though her laugh was quiet and rusty, like she didn't use it often. Other people on the station started noticing. Dae-ho, Hyunwoo's only real friend, came by one evening after Nari and Spark had left. Dae-ho was a mechanic, human like Hyunwoo, but from New Seoul Colony. He was stocky and loud and always covered in grease. "You need to be careful," Dae-ho said, his face serious. "People are talking." "About what?" Hyunwoo asked, cleaning his scissors. "About your mysterious client and her pet." Dae-ho lowered his voice. "That's not a pet, Hyunwoo. That's a dragon." Hyunwoo stopped cleaning. "A dragon? That's impossible. Dragons are myths, stories." "Not myths out here," Dae-ho said. He sat in the barber chair, his weight making it creak. "Dragons were real. A whole species. They ruled this sector of space a long time ago. But there was a war. The Purge Wars, they called it. The dragons were wiped out. All of them except what?" Dae-ho looked uncomfortable. "There are rumors. Stories about one survivor, the Empress of the Dragon's sovereignty. They say she's the last dragon alive, that she rules from the capital world, hidden away, protected by 1,000 ships." Hyunwoo laughed, but it sounded forced even to his own ears. "And you think my client is this Empress? Come on. Why would an Empress come to a dump like this station?" "I don't know," Dae-ho admitted. "But I know what I see. That creature is a dragon. And if people figure that out, if the wrong people figure that out, you're going to be in serious danger." After Dae-ho left, Hyunwoo couldn't stop thinking about it. He pulled up the station's information network on his old tablet and searched for dragons. Most of what he found was historical records. The Draken sovereignty had indeed been real, ruled by a species of intelligent, shape-shifting dragons. They'd been powerful, controlling dozens of star systems. Then came the Purge Wars. A coalition of other species, jealous and afraid of dragon power, had attacked. The war lasted 50 years. In the end, the dragons lost. Their worlds were destroyed. Their people hunted down and killed. The last verified sighting of a dragon was 30 years ago. But there were rumors, like Dae-ho said. Whispers of a survivor, an empress who ruled from the shadows, rebuilding her empire slowly, carefully. Some said she had a child, a daughter. The future of the dragon species. Hyunwoo looked at his guitar. Could Nari really be this empress? It seemed crazy, impossible. But then he remembered the way she moved, the way people reacted to her presence, the symbol on her sleeve he'd seen that first night. And Spark, growing bigger every visit. Those scales, those wings, those intelligent eyes. The next time Nari came, Hyunwoo was ready to ask her directly. But before he could say anything, something happened that changed everything. Spark sneezed. It seemed like a small thing. Just a tiny sneeze from a small creature. But when Spark sneezed, a small burst of flame shot out, hitting Hyunwoo's apron. The fabric caught fire immediately. Hyunwoo yelped and ripped the apron off, throwing it to the floor. Nari grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and put out the flames. The whole thing took maybe 10 seconds. But Nari's reaction told Hyunwoo everything. She grabbed him, checking his hands, his chest, his face for burns. Her calm mask had cracked, showing real fear underneath. "Are you hurt?" she demanded. "Tell me. Are you burned?" "I'm fine," Hyunwoo said, startled by her intensity. "It's okay. Just the apron." Nari looked at the burned apron, then at Spark, who looked ashamed. She took a deep breath and her mask came back, but not completely. Hyunwoo could still see worry in her eyes. "I will pay for a new apron," she said, "and for any other damages. It's just an apron." I will pay triple your rate for this session. For the danger. Nari, it was an accident. Spark didn't mean to. Triple rate, Nari insisted. Her voice was hard now, allowing no argument. After they left, Hyunwoo sat in his shop for a long time, thinking. Nari had been terrified that he was hurt. Not just concerned, but genuinely afraid. Like his injury would have serious consequences. Important consequences. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept researching dragons, reading everything he could find. One article made his blood run cold. It was about dragon bonding rituals. According to the article, young dragons formed permanent emotional bonds with their caretakers. These bonds were sacred, unbreakable. The bonded caretaker became part of the dragon's family, protected by ancient laws. To harm a dragon's bonded caretaker was to declare war on the entire dragon line. Hyunwoo thought about Spark's reaction to him. The way the creature had calmed at his music. The happy chirps when he arrived. The way Spark always wanted to be near him during grooming sessions. He thought about Nari's fear when he'd almost been burned. If Spark had bonded with him, and if the rumors were true, then Hyunwoo had accidentally become family to the galaxy's most powerful ruler. He looked at his guitar, his small shop, his simple life. Everything seemed different now. The walls felt closer, like they were closing in. What have I gotten myself into? He whispered to the empty room. In the corridor outside, hidden in shadow, Nari stood watching his shop window. She'd seen the light on, knew he was still awake. She'd read the same articles he was reading now. She knew what he must be thinking. The bond was forming. She'd seen it happen. Spark refused to eat unless Hyunwoo's music was playing. The little one talked about the music man constantly. By dragon law, the bond would be complete within a month, and then she would have to tell him the truth. Nari pulled her cloak tighter and walked away, her boots silent on the metal floor. Behind her, the symbol on her sleeve caught the station lights. The imperial seal of the Draken sovereignty, hidden from all who didn't know where to look. The attack came during an afternoon session. Hyunwoo was playing guitar while Spark dozed in the barber chair. Nari stood by the window as always, watching. It had been 5 weeks since their first meeting, and these visits had become the highlight of Hyunwoo's days. Spark was bigger now, about the size of a large dog, and had to curl up to fit in the chair. The door exploded inward. 3 figures in black armor rushed in, weapons raised. They weren't station security. Their armor was military grade, covered in weapons and ammunition. Their helmets showed no faces, just dark visors that reflected the shop lights. "Target acquired," one of them said in a mechanical voice. "The youngling is here." Everything happened very fast. Nari moved like lightning. One moment she was by the window, the next she was between the attackers and Spark. Her hand blurred, and suddenly she held a weapon Hyunwoo had never seen. It was silver and curved, humming with energy. The first attacker fired. Nari deflected the shot with her weapon, and it hit the wall, burning a hole through the metal. She spun and kicked the attacker in the chest. He flew backward through the door, crashing into the corridor outside. The second attacker tried to grab Spark. Nari's weapon sliced through his arm, cutting through the armor like it was paper. He screamed and fell. The third attacker aimed at Nari's head. Hyunwoo didn't think. He grabbed his guitar and swung it hard, hitting the attacker's arm. The shot went wide, hitting the ceiling. Sparks and debris rained down. "Take Spark and run," Nari shouted. "Now!" Hyunwoo grabbed the small dragon, who was screeching in fear. Smoke poured from Spark's nostrils and his scales were hot to touch. Hyunwoo ran through the back door, into the maintenance corridors that ran behind all the shops. Behind him he heard more shooting. Explosions. Nari was fighting, but there were more attackers now. He could hear their boots, their shouting. The maintenance corridors were dark and narrow. Pipes and cables ran along the walls. Hyunwoo had explored these passages when he first moved to the station, mapping them out when he couldn't sleep. Now he was grateful for that boredom. He ran left, then right, then down a ladder to the lower level. Spark clung to him, small claws digging into his shirt. The dragon was making a high-pitched whining sound that broke Hyunwoo's heart. "It's okay," he whispered, even though it wasn't. "We'll be safe. I promise." He heard footsteps behind him. Someone was following. Hyunwoo ducked into a side passage, pressing himself against the wall. The footsteps came closer. Through a gap in the pipes, he saw one of the black-armored attackers searching. "Where's the human?" the attacker said into a communicator. "The one who grabbed the youngling?" A voice crackled back. Find him. The Empress won't leave without her daughter. We use the human as bait, daughter. The word hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. Not pet daughter, Spark was Nari's daughter, which meant the rumors were true. Nari was the Empress, the last dragon, and Spark was the future of their entire species. The attacker moved past Hyunwoo's hiding spot. Hyunwoo waited, counting to 100 in his head, then moved deeper into the passages. He needed help. He needed Daeho. Daeho's workshop was 3 levels down. Hyunwoo used every shortcut he knew, climbing through access tubes and squeezing through maintenance hatches. His arms ached from carrying Spark, who was getting heavier by the minute. Finally, he reached the workshop. He pounded on the back door, a coded knock Daeho had taught him. The door opened. Daeho's eyes went wide when he saw Hyunwoo covered in dust and Spark in his arms. Get inside, Daeho hissed, pulling them in and locking the door. The workshop was full of machinery and parts. It smelled like oil and ozone. Daeho cleared a space on his workbench and Hyunwoo set Spark down. The dragon immediately pressed against him, trembling. What happened? Daeho asked. Hyunwoo told him everything. The attack, the armor, what he'd heard about bait and daughter. Daeho's face got paler with each word. Oh no, Daeho whispered. Oh no, no, no. This is bad. This is really bad. I know it's bad, Hyunwoo said. People are trying to kill us. Not just people. The Kryn Collective. Daeho pulled up a screen on his workbench, typing rapidly. Information flooded across it. They're a military faction. They've been trying to take over this sector for years. The only thing stopping them is the Draken sovereignty. If they kill the last dragons, there's nothing in their way. We need to call Station Security. Station Security can't help with this. The Kryn have ships, armies. Daeho stopped, staring at his screen. Look, Hyunwoo looked. The screen showed emergency broadcasts. The station was on lockdown. There was fighting in multiple sectors. Ships were docking. Big military ships that weren't supposed to be here. But there were also other ships. Sleek silver vessels that Hyunwoo recognized from his research. Draken ships. The Imperial fleet had arrived. They came for her, Hyunwoo said. For Nari, for the Empress. They came for both of them, Daeho corrected. Her and the youngling. The princess. He looked at Spark, who was watching them with those intelligent golden eyes. You've been grooming royalty. Spark made a soft chirping sound. Hyunwoo instinctively reached out to comfort the dragon. Stroking the scales along her head, Spark leaned into his touch, calming. She trusts you, Daeho said quietly. I've never seen anything like it. Dragons don't trust anyone except their own kind, but she trusts you completely. I just played music for her, Hyunwoo said, and cut her scales. That's all. That's everything to her. You showed kindness. You made her feel safe. Do you know how rare that is? Out here in the galaxy where everyone wants something, where everyone has an angle, you just wanted to help. Daeho smiled sadly. You might be the only person in 1,000 worlds who looked at a dragon and just saw someone who needed help. The building shook. An explosion somewhere close. Dust fell from the ceiling. We can't stay here, Daeho said. He went to a locker and pulled out 2 emergency suits. Put this on. It's got basic armor and life support. If the station gets breached, you'll need it. As Hyunwoo put on the suit, the door to the workshop opened. He spun around, heart racing. But it wasn't an attacker, it was Nari. She was injured. Her left arm hung at her side and blue blood stained her clothes. Her face was cut and she was limping. But her eyes were fierce, burning with determination. Spark, she said, her voice rough. The dragon leaped from the workbench and ran to her mother. Nari knelt, embracing her daughter with her good arm. She closed her eyes, and for a moment she looked almost human in her relief. Then she opened her eyes and looked at Hyunwoo. Thank you, she said, for protecting her. For running when I told you to run. Are you okay? Hyunwoo asked. You're hurt. I will heal. Nari stood, still holding Spark. I am harder to kill than I look. I know who you are, Hyunwoo said. The Empress. You're the Empress Seol. Seol nodded slowly. Yes, I am Empress Seol, last of the Draken line. And this is my daughter Spark, the only heir to the throne. The only hope for my species. Why did you come here? Hyunwoo asked. To my shop. To this station. You could have gone anywhere. Because this station was remote, Seol said. Because you are human and humans are not involved in our politics. Because I thought no one would think to look for the Empress of the Draken sovereignty in a barber shop. She looked at her daughter. And because someone told me you were kind, that you had gentle hands and a patient heart. Spark needed that. She was so frightened of everything. She bonded with him, Daeho said. Didn't she? That's why you kept coming back. Seal looked at Hyunwoo for a long moment. Yes, the bond formed. I tried to stop it, but Spark chose him. She chose you, Hyunwoo. By our law, by the sacred law of the Draken, that makes you family. That makes you part of the royal line. I don't understand, Hyunwoo said. It means you have a choice, Seal said. I can take Spark and leave. I can have your memory of all this erased. You can go back to your shop and your simple life, and you will never remember any of this happened, or you can accept the bond. You can come with us. You can serve as Spark's guardian and be part of the royal court. You will be protected, honored, given status and wealth. But you will never be free again. Your life will belong to the sovereignty, to Spark, to me. Outside, they heard more explosions, ships firing, people screaming. How long do I have to decide? Hyunwoo asked. Seol smiled sadly. About 30 seconds. My ships are evacuating us now. The Kryn won't stop until they've killed us both. We need to leave. Hyunwoo looked at Spark. The little dragon was watching him with those golden eyes full of trust and hope. He thought about his quiet life, his small shop, his simple days. He thought about safety and anonymity and peace. Then he thought about leaving Spark, about forgetting her, about never seeing that happy chirp again when he played guitar. He took a deep breath. I'm coming with you, he said. The Imperial homeworld was called Dracor Prime, and it was the most beautiful thing Hyunwoo had ever seen. From space, it looked like a massive emerald, green and shining. 3 moons orbited it, each one covered in silver cities. The planet itself was covered in forests and oceans, with cities that seemed to grow from the land rather than being built on it. Everything was organic curves and flowing designs, nothing like the harsh metal boxes of human stations. The Imperial Palace sat on a mountain that reached into the clouds. It was made of white stone that glowed in the sunlight, with towers that spiraled up like dragon tails. Gardens covered every level, full of plants that Hyunwoo had never seen before. Water flowed down the mountainside in dozens of waterfalls, creating a constant musical sound. Hyunwoo stood on a balcony high in the palace, looking out at this impossible beauty, and felt completely out of place. It had been 2 weeks since the attack on the station. 2 weeks since he'd made the choice to come here. 2 weeks since his life had completely changed. He was wearing formal clothes now. Not armor or royal robes, but nice pants and a shirt, made from fabric that was softer than anything he'd ever owned. A servant had laid them out for him this morning, one of dozens of servants who now attended to his every need. It made him uncomfortable. You look troubled, a voice said behind him. Hyunwoo turned. It was Won-shik, an elderly advisor who had taken pity on him. Won-shik was reptilian, with scales that were faded green and yellow with age. He walked with a cane and had eyes that saw too much. I don't belong here, Hyunwoo said simply. Few people belong anywhere at first, Won-shik said, moving to stand beside him. Belonging is earned through time and action, not birth. Everyone hates me. Won-shik didn't deny it. Many are, concerned. You are human. Humans are seen as young species. Simple, not ready for the complexities of imperial politics. That's a nice way of saying they think I'm stupid. They think you are naive, Won-shik corrected. There is a difference. Stupid cannot learn, naive can. He tapped his cane against the balcony floor. The nobles are frightened. For 30 years, Empress Seol has ruled alone. She trusted no one, allowed no one close. Then suddenly a human barber becomes part of the royal family. It is unexpected. Hyunwoo had learned quickly that unexpected was court language for absolutely unacceptable. The nobles were furious. They'd made that clear from the moment Hyunwoo had arrived. There had been formal protests, demands for explanations, suggestions that his memory should be erased and he should be sent home. But Empress Seol had refused. The bond was sacred, she'd said. To break it would be to dishonor the oldest laws of the Draken. Spark had chosen, and the choice must be respected. That hadn't made the nobles any happier. I met Lord Taeyang yesterday, Hyunwoo said. Taeyang was one of the most powerful nobles, a tall insectoid being who controlled 3 star systems. He asked me why I thought I deserved to breathe the same air as the Empress. What did you say? I said I didn't think I deserved it. I was just a barber who played guitar. Hyunwoo smiled without humor. He said that was the first intelligent thing I'd said since arriving. One chick chuckled. Taeyang respects honesty even when he dislikes the honest one. That is something. It's not enough. Perhaps not. But it is a start. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun set over Dracor Prime. The planet had 2 suns, and when they set together the sky turned purple and gold. Where is Spark? One chick asked. With her mother. They're in meetings. Hyunwoo's face softened when he talked about Spark. She's growing so fast. She's already twice the size she was on the station. Dragons grow quickly when they are happy and safe, one chick said. She was neither of those things before you. Now she is both. That was true. Spark had flourished since coming to the palace. She flew now, soaring around the towers with joy. She was learning to speak, not just in chirps but in actual words. And she still insisted on hearing Hyunwoo play guitar every night before sleep. It was the one part of his new life that felt right. Everything else felt wrong. The formal dinners where he didn't know which fork to use. The political meetings where he understood nothing. The constant servants who made him feel helpless. The nobles who looked at him like he was dirt on their shoes. I miss my shop, Hyunwoo admitted. I miss knowing what I was supposed to do each day. I miss being good at something. You are good at something, one chick said. You are good at caring for Spark. You are good at making her feel safe. In this palace full of politicians and soldiers and schemers, you are the only one who looks at our princess and sees simply a child who needs kindness. That is rare. That is valuable. It doesn't feel valuable. It will. One chick promised. Be patient. That evening, there was a state dinner. Hyunwoo had to attend because he was officially part of the royal household now. He wore his formal clothes and sat at the long table with dozens of nobles from across the sovereignty. Empress Seol sat at the head of the table. She wore black robes embroidered with silver dragons. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore a crown that was simple but elegant. She looked like what she was, a ruler. Powerful. Distant. Cold. She barely looked at Hyunwoo during the meal. That was normal. Seol kept her distance from him. She was polite but never warm. She thanked him for caring for Spark but never said more than necessary. It was like she'd put up a wall between them. Hyunwoo understood. He was useful to her because Spark needed him. But he wasn't her friend. He wasn't her equal. He was just a tool, a convenient solution to a problem. It hurt more than he wanted to admit. The dinner was boring. Nobles talked about trade agreements and military positions. They spoke in formal language that Hyunwoo barely understood. He pushed his food around his plate and wished he was back in his tiny apartment, eating instant noodles and watching old Earth movies. Then the lights went out. For a moment, everything was silent. Then someone screamed. Hyunwoo felt something whiz past his ear. A projectile. Someone was shooting. In the darkness he heard fighting, bodies hitting the floor. More screams. Assassins, someone shouted. Protect the Empress. Hyunwoo dropped to the floor. His heart hammered in his chest. He couldn't see anything. The darkness was complete. He heard footsteps nearby, running. Heard the sound of weapons firing. Then he heard Seol's voice, calm and commanding. Evacuation protocol. All nobles to the safe rooms. Now. People were panicking. Hyunwoo could hear them stumbling in the dark, pushing each other. Someone stepped on his hand and he bit back a curse. He needed to help. But how? He was just a barber. He didn't have weapons or training or... Wait. He remembered the maintenance corridors on the station. How he'd used them to escape. This palace was bigger, but it would have similar systems. Service passages for the workers. Hidden ways to move through the building. One chick, Yunwu shouted into the darkness. The service passages, where are they? Behind the east wall. Wanshik's voice came back. But they are locked. I can pick locks. It was true. On the station, he'd had to fix his own door when it broke. He'd learned to pick simple locks to save money on repair costs. Yunwu crawled across the floor, feeling his way to the east wall. His fingers found a seam in the stone. A hidden door. He pulled out a wire from his pocket. He always carried one now, a habit from his old life, and worked it into the lock. It took 30 seconds that felt like 30 years. But the lock clicked and the door opened. This way, Yunwu shouted. There's an exit here. The nobles couldn't see him, but they heard his voice. They stumbled toward him. Yunwu grabbed them as they came through, guiding them into the passage. One by one, he got them out of the dining hall. Emergency lights flickered on in the passage. Red lights that cast everything in crimson. Yunwu could finally see. The nobles looked terrified. There were maybe 20 of them, including Wanshik. Follow the passage to the right, Yunwu said. It should lead to the residential wing. There are guards there. How do you know? Lord Taeyang demanded. He was covered in food from diving under the table. Service passages always connect to residential areas, Yunwu said. The servants need to move without being seen. Basic building design. The nobles stared at him. Then they started moving, following his directions. Yunwu stayed at the door, making sure everyone got through. He was about to leave when he realized someone was missing. Empress Sayal hadn't come through. He looked back into the dining hall. The emergency lights were on there too now. He could see bodies on the floor. Guards, nobles, attackers, all mixed together. And in the center of the room, Seal fought against 3 assassins. She was holding them off, but barely. She was still injured from the station attack. She was slower than she should be. Yunwu should have run. He should have saved himself. He was just a barber. What could he do against trained killers? But he thought of Spark. If Seal died, Spark would be alone. The little dragon would lose her mother, and Yunwu knew what it was like to be alone in a scary universe. He grabbed a serving tray from the floor, heavy metal, about the size of a shield. Then he ran back into the dining hall. The first assassin didn't see him coming. Yunwu hit him in the head with the tray as hard as he could. The assassin went down. The second assassin turned, surprised. Seal used that moment to strike, her energy blade cutting through his armor. The third assassin ran. Seal stood there, breathing hard. She looked at Yunwu. 3 months passed and everything slowly changed. Yunwu found his place in the court, not as a noble or a politician, but as something unique. He was Spark's guardian, yes, but he became more than that. He became the person who saw problems differently. When the military advisors argued about the best way to defend against the Kryn Collective's fleet, they talked about formations and firepower. Yunwu, remembering how he'd escaped through maintenance corridors, suggested hiding small ships in the asteroid fields near their worlds, fast ships that could strike and disappear. The Kryn expected traditional warfare. They wouldn't expect guerrilla tactics. Admiral Han Sol, a grizzled warrior from a species that looked like walking crystals, had laughed at first. Then he'd thought about it. Then he'd implemented the strategy. It worked. The Kryn lost 3 major battles because they couldn't predict where the attacks would come from. When the agricultural worlds reported food shortages, the nobles debated complex trade agreements. Yunwu suggested something simpler. Teach the cities to grow food on their buildings like the vertical farms he'd seen on Earth. It was low-tech, but effective. Within a month, every major city had started rooftop gardens. The nobles stopped looking at him with contempt. Now they looked at him with curiosity. This human didn't think like them. He thought in simple, practical ways that sometimes worked better than their elaborate plans. Wanshik called it the advantage of ignorance. When you don't know the rules, you don't limit yourself to what's supposed to work. But the biggest change was with Spark. The little dragon was growing rapidly. She was the size of a horse now, with wings that could carry her across the entire palace grounds. Her scales had deepened to a rich purple-blue, and small horns curved back from her head. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She could speak in full sentences now, her voice musical and clear. She studied with tutors, learning history and politics and the ways of the Draken. But every evening, without fail, she came to Hyunwoo's rooms for their ritual. He would play guitar. She would curl up and listen, and they would talk. "The nobles say I must be fierce," Spark said one evening. She was lying on the floor of his room, her head resting on her front claws. "They say I must learn to be a warrior, to fight like mother. What do you think?" Hyunwoo asked, his fingers moving across the guitar strings. "I think I want to be kind," Spark said. "Like you. You are not fierce, but you are brave. You came back for mother when the assassins attacked. That is courage without fierceness," Hyunwoo smiled. "There are many kinds of strength, Spark. Your mother is fierce because she had to be. She survived a war that killed her entire family. She built an empire from ashes. But you don't have to be exactly like her. You can be your own kind of strong." Spark hummed, a deep sound that made the windows vibrate. "Mother says I will be empress one day. That I must be ready to rule." "You will be," Hyunwoo assured her. "But you're still young. You have time to learn, to figure out who you want to be." "Will you stay with me?" Spark asked. "When I am empress, will you still play music for me?" "As long as you need me," Hyunwoo promised, Spark's golden eyes closed. "I will always need you. You are my family. The first person who was kind to me. I will not forget that." These moments were precious to Hyunwoo. Everything else in the palace was complicated, but this was simple. Just a girl and her guitar-playing guardian talking about life. His relationship with Empress Seal changed too. After the assassination attempt, she'd started seeking his advice. Not just about Spark, but about other things. At first, it was small questions. What did he think of a new trade agreement? Did this speech sound too formal? Simple things, but gradually the questions became deeper. How did humans think about leadership? What made people trust someone? What did he think about the war with the Kryn? One night, late after a long council meeting, she came to his rooms. She'd never done that before. She stood in the doorway looking uncertain in a way he'd never seen. "May I come in?" she asked. "Of course," Hyunwoo said, setting down his guitar. "Is something wrong?" Seol walked to the window looking out at the city below. The lights twinkled like stars. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "For what?" "For being cold to you. For keeping distance." She turned to face him. "When Spark bonded with you, I was frightened. Not of you, but of what it meant. For 30 years, I have trusted no one. I have let no one close. It has kept me alive, but it has made me hard. Alone." "You're not alone," Hyunwoo said. "You have Spark. You have your people." "I have subjects and a daughter," Seol corrected. "But I do not have friends. I do not have anyone I can speak to honestly, without politics or agendas." She paused. "Except perhaps you." "Me?" "You do not want power. You do not want wealth or status. You wanted to cut hair and play guitar in a quiet shop. But you gave that up for Spark. Because she needed you. That is," Seol struggled for words, "that is rare. Perhaps unique." She sat down in the chair across from him. Without her crown and formal robes, wearing just simple clothes, she looked younger, vulnerable. "Tell me about your life before," she said. "On Earth, before space. Before the station," so Hyunwoo told her. About growing up in a small town. About his grandmother who taught him guitar. About his sister who was sick. About leaving Earth to make money in space because that's where the opportunities were. About missing home but not being able to go back because the travel was too expensive. Seol listened to all of it. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "I had a family once," she said finally. "Parents, siblings, cousins. Hundreds of us. We would gather in the summer in the old palace. There would be music and flying races and laughter." Her eyes were distant. "The Kryn killed them all. I watched my mother die. My father, my little brother. I was the only one who escaped." "I'm sorry," Hyunwoo said. He didn't know what else to say. "For 30 years I have ruled alone. I built this empire to honor their memory, to ensure our species did not die with them. But I have been so focused on survival that I forgot what it was to live." She looked at him. "You reminded me. You and your guitar and your kindness to a frightened child." "I just played music," Hyunwoo said. "You did more than that. You showed her that the galaxy could be gentle. That not everyone wants to hurt us. That kindness exists." Seol smiled sadly. "I had forgotten that lesson. I think I needed to remember it too." They talked for hours that night. About loss and hope, about fear and courage, about building a life from broken pieces. When Seal finally left, Hyunwoo felt like he'd seen the real person behind the crown for the first time. 2 weeks later, the Kryn made their final move. A fleet of warships jumped into the system, heading straight for Dracor Prime. It was their largest attack ever, hundreds of ships. They were done with assassination attempts and small strikes. This was total war. The palace went into emergency mode. Spark was secured in the deepest bunker. The nobles were evacuated. The military scrambled every ship they had. Hyunwoo stood in the war room with Seol and her commanders, watching the tactical displays. The Kryn fleet was massive. Even with the guerrilla tactics they'd implemented, the sovereignty was outnumbered. "We need to evacuate you," Admiral Hansol said to Seol. "Get you and the princess to safety." "I will not run," Seol said firmly. "If I flee, the Kryn win. They take my homeworld. They claim victory. That cannot happen. Then we fight," Hansol said grimly. "And probably die." Hyunwoo stared at the display. The Kryn fleet was in a tight formation, protecting their command ship in the center. Standard military doctrine. Protect the leader, maintain formation, overwhelm with numbers. An idea struck him. A crazy, probably stupid idea. "But maybe, what if you didn't fight their fleet?" he said. Everyone turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Seol asked. "They expect you to fight. Ship against ship, formation against formation. That's how wars are fought." Hyunwoo pointed at the command ship. "But what if you ignored the fleet? What if you took a small, fast ship straight to their command vessel? If you take out the leadership, the fleet falls apart. They're the Kryn collective, right? They follow strength. Without their leader, they'll fight each other for control. That's suicide," Hansol said. "The command ship is surrounded by hundreds of vessels. Not if you're fast enough. Not if they're not expecting it." Hyunwoo looked at Seol. "You're a dragon. Dragons are meant to fly fast and strike hard. That's what the old stories say, right? Maybe it's time to show them what dragons really are." Seol stared at him. Then slowly she smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of teeth and fire. "Spark comes with me," she said. "What?" Hyunwoo's heart jumped. "No, she's too young. She is young. But she is ready. And the Kryn need to see that there are 2 dragons now. That we are not dying. We are growing stronger." Seol looked at him. "Will you come? Will you fly with us?" Hyunwoo thought about his quiet life in the barbershop. About cutting hair and playing guitar and staying safe. Then he thought about Spark and Seol. About the family he'd found in this impossible place. "I'll bring my guitar," he said. The ship was small and fast, built for speed over firepower. Seol piloted it herself with Spark in the co-pilot seat. Hyunwoo sat in the back, strapped in tight, his guitar on his lap. They launched from the palace, a